Welcome. My name is Tavia Lassiter, and thank you all for joining me today. When most people are feeling stressed or overwhelmed, they automatically reach for that cigarette or that glass of wine. What do? I bake. The results of this are just fantastic. Never mind the fact that all of the stress and worry of the day is just melting away. Today, I'm going to show you how to make a classic chocolate cake from ingredients from your pantry. So let's get ready to dive into the first step, which is preparing. An educator at August Escoffer School of Culinary Arts said there's a great deal of science involved in baking. Generally, it's more precise than cooking in that regard. The order of ingredients matters, so attention to detail and organization will make a big difference. With that being said, I think preparing is probably the most important part of the cake baking process. So go ahead and preheat your oven to 350 degrees. This is going to be a 3-layer cake, so go ahead and take out 3 8-inch circular pans. If you don't have all 3, that's perfectly okay. You can just continue to rinse and reuse that initial pan. I like to start out by adding a thin layer of softened butter to my pans to ensure that there is no sticking when the cakes are baked. Immediately following that, I put about a tablespoon of flour or cocoa powder just to go the extra mile. You're going to need 2 generously sized bowls for your wet and dry ingredients. An additional bowl is needed for your whipped buttercream chocolate icing. The dry ingredients needed are 3 cups of flour, 3 cups of granulated sugar, 1.5 cups of cocoa powder, 1 tablespoon of baking soda, 1.5 teaspoon of baking powder, and 1.5 teaspoon of salt. The wet ingredients needed are 4 eggs, 1.5 cup of buttermilk, 1.5 cup of hot water, and 1/2 cup of vegetable oil. The ingredients needed for your whipped chocolate buttercream icing are 1 cup or 2 sticks of softened butter, 5 cups of powdered sugar, 1/2 cup of unsweetened cocoa powder, and then I like to go ahead and add a splash of instant coffee or vanilla to taste. So now that we've got all of our preparations out of the way, we can go on into the second step, which is mixing. I like to start out by sifting out all of my dry ingredients to ensure that there are no inconsistencies in my batter. I then give it a gentle whisk to ensure that everything has combined well. Leslie from Stress Baking says, adding wet to dry is having to work harder to completely combine your dough or batter. This can result in overdeveloping the gluten in your flour. Using an electric or hand mixer, add all of your wet ingredients into a bowl and then slowly add in your dry ingredients to then avoid any inconsistencies in your batter. Now that our batter is all mixed up, it's ready to bake. Separate the batter into 3 8-inch circular pans, and I find that to get the evenest layers, you can go ahead and put 3 cups of batter into each pan. You're going to go ahead and put those into your oven for about 30 to 35 minutes. An easy way to test if your cakes are done is to poke a toothpick or a fork in the center of your cakes, and if they come out clean, your cake is ready to go. In a generous bowl, add your room temperature butter and whip this on high until the butter is almost double its volume. This is going to be for your whipped buttercream chocolate icing. It is imperative to use room temperature butter. If you take a shortcut like microwaving it, you're going to taste it when you take that first initial bite. Sally from Sally's Baking Addiction gives a butter test on her website. She says, to test the butter, poke it with your finger. You should make an indent without sinking or sliding into the butter. It should be cool to touch, not warm. Once you've whipped your butter, it's time to add in your powdered sugar, cocoa powder, and continue to mix this all together while adding in your 1/2 cup of buttermilk and instant coffee or vanilla to taste. Now, as the cakes are cooling and your icing is getting stiff, this is the perfect opportunity to get some cleaning done. Now it's time to finish off this moist, velvety chocolate cake. Lastly, we're going to take each cake out of its pan by flipping it over and putting it on the cooling rack. This is the time to stack and layer your cake. After completely covering the entire cake, you should be able to add whatever garnish you'd like. Now you've learned how to apply the 4 ings. You can bake virtually anything and feel that feeling of satisfaction when you realize that this is a dessert that you made yourself. And the only glass that you'll be reaching for is a nice cold glass of milk. Thank you.